At the end of the day, I'm here to help entrepreneurs design brands that guide them to seven-figure success. What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another Brand Doctor live stream. I am your host, Henry Kaminski Jr., aka the Brand Doctor, with my man, Owais Qureshi.
What's up, everybody?
The Visual Q. What's going on? I noticed that I call you Owais Q a lot. And so I wanted to just let the world know, and you know, that I actually did know your last name.
Thank you. I think it's easier for people to just to say, okay, Owais Q, the Visual Q. So
yeah. So today we're going to be talking about how to sell an expensive product or service, especially if you are a solopreneur, a coach, consultant, somebody that is selling sometimes an intangible, that wants to get better and get stronger at selling a high ticket service, or you want to level up your pricing, but you're not sure how to go about it. Right. So what we're going to do for the first time ever is we're going to do a role play. Owais and I are going to go back and forth and handle some common objections. We're going to handle some obscure objections, and we're going to highlight how you can navigate through these so that you can really position yourself as the subject matter expert here, but also position yourself as a premium versus the other competition that's out there that may be competing with you on price. So you never want to ever promise me one thing today that you will not compete on price after watching this video. So here's the big question I have for you, Owais, and then we'll get into it. But what do you think the biggest issues are when it comes to selling a high ticket product or service for the person selling it?
Well, I'll give you a couple of personal experiences from when I first started out, and I would say even up until 2-3 years ago, struggle with this. So, of course, early on it was a lack of confidence, and that kind of boiled into how you're showing up, or how I was showing up into a lot of these meetings, where I could have charged more. I could have priced it at a much higher rate, because, just like you've mentioned in the past couple of sessions, price the client, don't price the job. And so I wasn't necessarily evaluating what the client was doing, what the client was trying to achieve, what their specific revenue output may have been as a result of that engagement. So, not having enough confidence to ask the right questions. I think that was one of the biggest things. And that led to anxiety, because now you're having fear, even having the price conversation. Right. And Blair Enns talks about that, is like, get comfortable with talking about money.
Yeah.
And how many sessions have we spoken to other creatives, other service providers in Clubhouse, on IG Live, even the questions that show up in here, where they're like, I fear talking about money. You're in business. The minute you get into business, it's, you're accountable to yourself when it comes to your own bottom line.
Yeah.
And that conversation, if you're already having that conversation with yourself, well, then you should be having that exact same, and get comfortable with having that exact same conversation with your bookkeeper, with your prospective client, with your existing client.
Yeah.
But all of that is the lack of confidence that now rolls over into anxiety. You can know that you're just running into that. So I think that a lot of that had to do with it. And then on top of that,
I forget what did they say. Well, there's a couple quotes out there. One from Meek Mill, one of the new rappers. Maybe he's not new anymore, but Meek Mill says, "Scared money doesn't make any money." That's right. But the other quote that I heard was, if you can't talk about money, you won't make any of it. And it's very true. You know, it's very true. I remember when I would pussyfoot around talking about price, and it would come and bite me in the ass because that lack of confidence just oozed out of me. And you could see the prospect's eyes start to get all big, like, oh, I could name my price here, or I could chisel this guy down to nothing, because I could see like all the confidence has been sucked out of him because he's not comfortable with price. And physical things started to happen too, like stuttering, like lack of eye contact, things like that, right? And you don't even realize you're doing it, but the other person does.
They do.
So this is why role play comes in such handy. And I encourage all my clients to do it. I encourage everybody really to find a partner and do it. It could be your spouse, it could be your boyfriend, girlfriend, like, and the harder the person to sell, the better, because you get all those nerves out, number one. And number two, when you get in front of a real prospect, it feels like deja vu because you've practiced so much. I mean, I'm no sales professional by any means, and I don't want to pawn myself off as one, because there's plenty of people out there like my man Daniel G. That's how he makes his living, you know, like, and there's other people out there that literally sales train, but I'm just coming to you from my real life experience of sucking at sales and how I've been able to get over it and get quite good at it. And I want to share some of those experiences with you and some of the tricks I've learned along the way. So we're going to be handling, so we don't sit here for an hour and go through an actual sales conversation. What we're going to do is highlight some of the pain points when we get to the part of the conversation where we start to trip up. Okay. So one of the things that I do want to encourage, because I'm starting to see the live audience grow a little bit, is I want you guys to become part of the conversation. So make sure you're dropping comments, make sure you're asking questions. We will bring you into this conversation as much as you'd like. I just don't want you guys, kind of gawking at us from afar. We want you to be part of the conversation. So I want to encourage that. So,
and we'd really like to hear, some of the objections that you might have received up till now. And,
yes.
Add that into the conversation, because, there might be shared challenges there that we can address.
Absolutely. So we're going to cut to this quick little promo. We're going to come back and we're going to get right into it. If you're a business owner who feels your branding isn't truly representing the value that you deliver, check out this free video training that will help you level up your brand's messaging and online presence so that you can start attracting higher quality clients. Visit www.uniquedesigns with a Z at the end, not an S, .net/level up my branding. All right, always. So let's get into character.
Good, man. All right. So are you being the salesperson first, or am I doing the sales? Am I selling you, or are you gonna sell me?
Yeah, you're gonna be the salesperson. I'll be the client, and the objection will be you're too expensive.
Okay, so we're starting from there. We're not starting from the top.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. You're too expensive. So, all right. 3, 2, 1. Okay, Always. So basically what you presented to me sounds pretty good. However, it's really, I feel like it's out of budget right now and just too damn expensive.
Okay. Well, Henry, first of all, I totally understand as a business owner, we always have a specific budget that we always have to keep in mind. And I'm sure you've set a particular budget aside from this. Would you mind telling me what that budget is?
Yeah. Well, to be honest with you, we're probably looking at $5,000.
Wow. Okay. All right. Well, look, Henry, let me ask you a question. have you tried to solve the problem that we've up till now that we've been discussing, and you spent a great deal of time telling me about this. So have you tried to solve this in the past? And have you hired someone in the past?
I have. I mean, if I did, we wouldn't be having this conversation, right? So
Yeah.
it just, I can't find the right, for whatever reason, I can't find the right person to help me solve this problem.
And have you maybe paid some attention to what you're allocating towards hiring that person?
What do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, as far as the budget that you're allocating towards an engagement like this, and you're telling me $5,000, did you pay around the same amount? What did you pay him?
Well, the one person I paid, I paid 10 to, and I got no result. I paid another person, 3,500. So, where I came up with 5 is like, somewhere in the middle. So, but now I'm 18 deep into this. So I'm really concerned about, getting this right this time, because, if I'm out another 5 and I still don't get the result, like, I'm screwed. I'm in 20 grand and I haven't gotten the result yet.
So Henry, if I understand you correctly, you've gone to 3 different vendors and spent a total of about $18,000. So
Yeah.
averaging of about $6,000 each, and still haven't gotten the result that you want.
Yes.
And you've lost. What else do you value in I mean, how much time have you lost up till now?
God, I lost track. I mean, I can't even put a number to it.
So 0 traction. You haven't seen any of the money back, and you've now, you're now looking to invest almost the same amount that you've invested between the 3 of these other vendors.
Right.
Well, let's think about that for a minute. You're basically telling me that you're only looking to invest about less than 20% of what I've quoted you.
Yeah, correct.
So my concern here is that, are we running into that exact same issue? Because look, at the end of the day, what I'm looking at is the process.
Mm-hmm.
So I would encourage you to take a look at this and say, what's your time worth, and what are you actually looking to gain out of this?
Mm. I don't know. I'll be honest with you. I'm scared. I don't know if this is going to work. I don't know if spending another 10 grand is going to make this problem go away. I'm really nervous.
I understand that, Henry. Now you've spent 10 grand, you've spent 5 grand. We're looking at a 25, I've basically given you a quote of a $25,000 engagement.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I know that that's much steeper than what you have been accustomed to paying. I understand that. And I understand you have a very specific budget. However, up till now, from what you're telling me, everything else has failed. You haven't gained any traction.
Right.
So what is it worth to you now to actually see an impact in your business?
It's a great question. I mean, a lot.
And what would you do if we do nothing today? What would happen in your business if we do nothing today and you're now move on to the next guy that you're sizing me up against, and that guy comes in and tells you, "Hey, Henry, I'll do this for 3,500." You've kind of gone through that entire situation.
Mm-hmm. I don't know.
How is that going to impact your business?
That's a good point. You bring up a good point. All right, time out. Did a really good job, dude. You've been practicing.
Guys, don't be afraid to get in the ring with your mentor, with your coach. If you have a peer advisory board, just 5 days, so this is fresh for me because just last Thursday I was in with my peer advisory group, and up against 5 different people simultaneously. So right here is 1-to-1, but last Thursday it was against 5 people. One playing a role of a CEO, another one CFO, another one marketing guy, 3 sales guys, all up against me and giving me their different objections. So I came out bloody, but if Henry's telling me I'm doing a good job, which I don't know if I am, but yeah,
you are. No, you are. I think you kept bringing me back to the value conversation. You kept bringing me back to, what is this going to cost? What is this going to mean to you? Things like that. Correct. I was giving you some alley-oops to see if you would take them, and you didn't. And I was, and I just wanted to highlight those before we get to another objection. So I blatantly said to you, I'm in 18 grand. I'm on my 3rd vendor and I still don't have a result. I would have came back and said something along the lines of, why do you think that is?
Okay.
Okay. Why do you think that is? And then you're going to continue, they're going to continue to talk. So whatever I say out of that, you should be writing notes, because I would have gave you a whole bunch of more words to use against me later on.
That's right.
Okay. The other thing that I said, blade out, like straight out, was, I'm scared. And you kind of dismissed it. And what I would have done was, I would have said, I could have handled it a couple different ways. One way I would have said, that's completely understandable. You're into this 18 grand already, no result. What are you really scared about? Honestly, just keep it real with me. And then let them talk.
Okay.
And then, another more common way of handling that objection is same thing that I just said, but then bring in a story from a past client. A lot of my clients come scared. They know nothing about what the end result could be when it comes to building a blank. But that's the reason why they did it in the first place, because if they weren't going to do anything, they're going to be in the same place that they're in today, tomorrow. And my clients want to progress. They don't want to stay stagnant. They don't want to be complacent.
Yeah.
And so I have a client that went through exactly what you were going through. And he said, the only way to get to where I want to be is through this process. And that's what that's how they pulled the trigger.
Yeah.
So those were a couple of the things that I threw to you to see if you would grab and see what you would do with them. And yeah, you missed it. But I will tell you that your actual responses were good. But did you see how, like, I kept pausing long, and I didn't know, like, there was a block there. Like, I didn't know what to say, because then I felt like, I'll be honest, I felt like I was being interrogated a little bit.
Oh no. Okay.
I'm already scared of making the wrong investment, but now I feel like I'm really getting pushed up against the wall.
Okay.
And now I'm looking to retreat. I'm thinking to myself, how the hell do I get off this call? Now. Okay. Right.
So what is that because of the questions that I was asking, or is it okay?
Yeah. The questioning was good, but they were so strong. You were like beating an ant, like you were killing an ant with a machine gun.
Okay.
Where if you would have came in a little softer, I think I would have opened up more, and you would have been able to get more intel from me.
Okay.
And I think that's the key. I think 9 times out of 10, when we get a prospect who's pussyfooting around or just nervous to commit,
Yeah.
we want to overcompensate by talking more and try to get them over the hump.
That's right.
It's a natural reaction, especially if you like have a heart to help people.
Absolutely.
I found that to be counterintuitive, especially in a premium price conversation, sales conversation. So instead of me trying to convince, I'm asking more questions.
Yeah.
And I was always taught like a couple different things. One thing was like, try to use as least amount of words as possible, because those words could be used against you.
Yeah.
And it's sort of it's a rough way of just putting it out there, but it's the truth.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Talk less, listen more. I think like during any sort of a sales situation is important, is to be able to listen. So
yeah, look at Robert Molinay. He says, I love this. He's like, to ease the stress, or the feel of interrogate, put it,
picture having a beer on the deck. Yeah.
Picture having a beer on the deck with your buddy and not having an interrogation. Yeah, that's a great way. And like, it's hard, to put yourself in that mindset, especially when you're sitting in front of somebody on a Zoom or in person.
Yeah.
But if you could put yourself in that state, your unconscious is going to help you.
Exactly.
It's really going to help you. So, all right. So that's one objection was, it's expensive. I don't have the money. What's another objection that comes up quite a bit?
So are we going to do a role play now where I'm the client and and then I give you the objection?
I could do that.
Okay. So let's do, I don't have the time, or call me back in a quarter, or call me back in, a couple of months.
Okay. So, all right. So 3, 2, 1, shoot.
Look, Henry, everything that you've just proposed to me, I mean, it looks great. I went and took a look at your website and your social media. I mean, I love all the work that you're doing for all these people. But, I don't know if I can really invest the time right now. How about you call me back in about 3 months and we'll see if we can pick up at that point in time.
Sure. So before I let you go, let me ask you a quick question.
Sure.
So we spent the last maybe 30 minutes or so talking about what you're trying to accomplish. And it sounds like it's a pretty serious issue. I don't know. You correct me if I'm wrong, but I have to ask you now that you're coming to me with this, how important is solving this issue for real?
Well, look, it's important, but I'm also I'm looking at everything that I've got in front of me, and it just seems like, man, you're asking me to show up into all these meetings and all that. I don't know, man. I mean, it's a lot to do, man. I've already got enough on my plate. So Henry, if you're asking me to come in, I might free up in the next 3 months, and then maybe we can pick up the conversation at that point in time.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. Yeah. I know you might. It sounds like you're a little scared because it's going to take quite a bit of effort to do this work up front. So let's kind of take it from another angle and look at it from another angle. How much time do you think it's going to take for you to redo it if we don't plan this out properly and do it right the first time?
That's a good question. It's a good question, Henry.
I'm just trying to figure out and show you different angles here. You know,
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it comes back to you and how bad you want to make this happen.
Yeah.
So, you know, I would tell you like I would tell my best friend, you know, and that's why I'm bringing up these different ways of looking at it.
No, you got a point there, Henry. And look, I mean, I've put it off for a while now, but you know, I mean, look, you're a business owner yourself, and there are times where, man, I mean, let's say we get started tomorrow, and I'm all excited about it, and then I get pulled into 10 other things, and I can't show up for the 3 other workshops that you've got scheduled me in before we move into some of the other brand work that you need. You want to present something to me, you need my feedback.
Yeah.
I understand how these things work. I've hired someone before, and it was a complete failure. So, it's just, I'm looking at all these situations and thinking to myself, how can we resolve this?
Okay. Well, I'll tell you this. We wouldn't be having this conversation right now, in my opinion, if this wasn't a big problem. Because we typically don't handle small problems. We pass those along to competitors. And so we've gotten to the point where we've come to the understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, that this is a pretty big issue for you. This is already affected your bottom line.
That's right.
So my question to you is, what do you think it's going to cost you per day if you continue to put this investment on hold? So you're in a meeting and you're getting pulled in different directions. What are you going to say to yourself?
Well, look, just like we went through the numbers, I mean, we're losing about $250,000 in sales as we speak. So, something's definitely got to get repaired here. But my concern here is the amount of time that I'm going to need to dedicate towards this, and whether I'm going to be able to do this. So, again, Henry, again, let's try to see what we can do in terms of picking it up in 3 months.
Okay.
I'm still a little unsure about this.
Okay.
Maybe I need to digest this information a little bit and maybe talk it over with my wife, see what she thinks about it. Yeah.
I can't. I lost it.
I've actually gotten that from a doctor before.
Yeah, I lost it. I'm sorry, I lost it. But okay, so we could have went on and on and on. You know what I mean? So I think what I probably would have done at that point, if you were still not willing to budge, I would have said, well, based on what you're telling me right now, this doesn't look like a priority to you any longer. So there's not much I can do. And to be honest with you, if this isn't a priority for you and this isn't that important for you to get done immediately, then maybe you shouldn't do it at all.
Yeah.
And now I start to retreat.
Okay.
Now I start to retreat.
Yeah.
And well, I didn't say that, or, however you would have came back to me with, I'd be curious to see how you would handle that, because now I'm like, okay, I tried 3 different ways to figure out if this was a priority. I got 3 different resistances. So maybe this isn't a big deal to him.
Yeah.
Why bother to continue to push? Now I'm going to retreat.
Yeah. And you did, again, one thing that I did like about this is that you got me to quantify what I was losing on a daily basis or per sale, whatever it was.
Yeah.
So getting that and maybe drilling a little bit more into, hey, look, if you're losing about $250,000 on a daily basis, well, then this looks like a pretty damn big problem.
Yeah. So those are a couple different ways you could do it. So just to recap, I asked Oase when he came to me, well, can we table this for another month or quarter? I came to him with, how important is this to you? Is it worth taking the time to do it right? Right. And how long do you think it's going to take to redo, or what is it going to cost you in redoing if we don't do it right the first time?
Yeah.
And then what does it cost in your business to put this on hold for even longer?
Yeah.
And still got resistance. So then you retreat. Then you retreat. Then it's, maybe you don't do this at all. Maybe there's other things that you should be doing. Maybe this isn't a priority right now. I'm out. And be out. Like, no sense of beating a dead horse. I was on a sales call one time. This was funny. This was before my professional training took place. And I literally had a guy look me in the face on a Zoom and said, dude, you're not closing me. It's exactly what he said to me. He's like, dude, you're not closing me.
Wow.
And I was like, okay. like, I didn't even know what to say. I did not even know what to say. So, like,
wow,
he was hell bent on just not moving forward. So I go, then what are we, like, I didn't even know what to say at the time. I just said, okay, like, all right, this conversation's over then. Yeah. Right. But now I probably would have went back and said a couple of different things, you know what I mean? But that was a real direct way. I haven't, that's a 1 in a million right. chance that somebody's going to be like, you're not closing me.
A signature response that I like from you is, then why are we talking? I like that.
Well, I'm critiquing myself as I'm listening, as I'm looking back, and I'm saying to myself, I gave him too many words. I could have asked those questions in a way, in much more brevity, and shut up. So that's a little self-critique there. I added too many words to the conversation. I should have just asked the question and shut up. I kept trying to like paraphrase and play. You notice that I was doing that. And that's just messing up the pot, right? So you want to keep that pot clean. So that's one that was a little self-critique that I noticed afterwards. Is I
struggle with that too.
Talk too much. Yeah, just ask the question and shut up. Just ask the question, shut up.
Yeah.
All right, so here's another one. Got a bunch of them here.
Are we actually getting something from the audience?
Yeah.
Okay.
Robert mentioned something. Sharon Fox said, interesting conversation. And if you guys have objections that you want us to tackle and role play with, throw them in the comments and we'll play around with them. If you have questions, drop them in the comments as well. Want to make sure that you guys are part of this conversation. How about okay, here's a fun one. I can't afford it right now. There's another one that revolving around price. So, okay, why don't you be the salesperson?
Oh shit.
No. Yeah, you be the salesperson, and I'll be the buyer.
Okay. Can't afford it. Okay. All right. Three.
Yeah. 3, 2, 1. Oase, this sounds amazing, but $50,000. That's like That's like a low end Range Rover. And it's like the cost of a low end Range Rover. Um, I can't afford it. It's just out of my league.
Henry, I hear you. Let me ask you a question. Uh, when you contacted me, uh, what was it that made you want to reach out to me in the first place?
Well, your content online, it sounded like you knew what you were talking about. I was having some issues, that I explained, but I was not expecting a $50,000 price tag to, a solution to this.
Okay. And what sort of how much do you think, I mean, right now, what is it costing your business if you don't do this?
It's a good question. I don't know. I have nothing to compare it to.
I mean, what's been happening up till this point? You talked to me about some of those problems,
Yeah, well,
right?
I feel
Is it a
like
big,
I feel like things could be tuned up. I feel like things could uh, be running more efficiently and more profitably, but I couldn't tell you, what it's actually costing me.
well, okay, so let's not talk about costing, but tell me what would happen in your business if it's tuned up?
Well, I think we would be getting more sales, and we would be, we'd be more profitable, I guess.
So in that sort of a sense, let's think about that. What does that number look like in relation to this $50,000 low end Range Rover that you're referring to? How many Range Rovers would you be able to afford as a result of investing the lower end Range Rover towards this engagement?
Uh, that's a good question. Maybe, I don't know, maybe 3 of them. I don't know. That's a good point. I never looked at it that way. So I want to pause for a second. Robert Molinet writes in, what are we talking here? A Jeep Gladiator or a used Corolla? That would get a chuckle. That would definitely get a chuckle.
That would.
I think I want to encourage people by saying, don't be afraid to go there.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to go there. Robert deals with this a lot. He's a Brain Accelerator graduate, and he puts backyards in for people that are 50, 60, $150,000. So he's talking big numbers all day long.
There you go.
Right. So he gets it. He gets it. And you have enough of these high price conversations, you start to get real comfortable with it. Exactly. So, couple things here. Okay, couple things. I think you did a decent job with taking me off of the I can't afford it mindset and focusing me towards the what is it costing you and what do you actually want out of this. I think you did a good job by saying if you want this problem to go away, how many Range Rovers could you afford? I think that's a good one. That's a really good one, because it took my mind off of it, and I started to get into the thought process of, oh, well, all I need is one client to make my money back.
Exactly.
Right? I started thinking that way, right? And it helped. Robert also puts here, buyers are liars, so you got to be bold. It's very true. Very, very true. Right? Here's a couple of things here's a couple different ways you could approach this when you say, when somebody comes to you and says, I can't afford it. So first question you could ask is this a question of price or value? And then they'll say, no, I understand your value. I get the value. I just can't afford it.
Afford it. Yeah.
So This is where the initial conversation really has to do well. What do I mean by that? You really have to establish the value up front. So, what do I mean? Asking the client what the revenue goals are going to be for this year. What's one client worth to you? So if you would have asked me that up front, and I would have told you, I don't know, over a calendar year, let's say one client is worth 10 grand, or let's say 20 grand, right? No, so that's like 2.5 clients. Do you think I can help you get 2.5 clients?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, right. So the value, so the value's there. So then you could have came back to me and said, well, one client is worth 20 grand to you. So we're only talking 2.5 clients here.
Yeah.
Right.
I kind of went there. I think I went halfway there with asking about the revenue part, right? But yeah, the one client worth to you, I think I missed that piece.
Yeah, you could have came right in that. Yeah. If you didn't ask that question prior, you could have came right back with me and say, hey, real quick, before we go any further, let me ask you a question. How much is one client worth to you anyway? Just so I have a ballpark figure here. Right? Now you're sitting on the same side of the table as the buyer. You're not sitting across from the table anymore.
That's right.
Right. The other question, the other way that you could respond is you could say, hey, listen, there's tons of other people out there that do this shit way cheaper than I do. Why haven't you gone with them yet? And then just shut up. Just shut up. And then another way that you can handle this objection is saying something along the lines of, hypothetically speaking, if I can help you get to X revenue, and obviously it's going to be more than what you're charging, right? Does it really matter if I charge you 5, 10, 15, 20 grand to do this? So what are you looking for? Are you looking for a cheap price here, or are you looking for a result? So that's a little bit more of an aggressive way of going at it, but to Robert's point, you have to be bold in these conversations because, in my opinion, people buy confidence first. Then they're going to buy your product or service. So if you're scared to ask these kind of questions, then the person's going to be scared to buy from you. Right? I've had tons of clients in the past say to me, this one in particular was very, very interesting. He said, Henry, this is after like conversation number 2, because this was, I'm sorry, like we went back and forth probably 2-3 times. So this was like our 4th conversation. This was like pretty much do or die, right? And he said to me, Henry, you got to promise me one thing. If we go forward with this, you got to kick our asses. You got to tell us, like, if we come up with a stupid idea, you need to be like, that's ridiculous. We're not doing that.
Yeah.
They're looking for the guidance. And so we had a joke about it because these guys were from New York and I'm from Jersey. So, same sort of mindset there. And I was like, listen, I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't tell you how it is. I would actually be doing you a disservice. So sometimes you could ask my wife, sometimes it gets me in trouble, but I'm a pretty straight shooter and I'm going to tell you how it is. And if you don't like it, yeah, maybe we're not a good fit. Boom. That was a $70,000 gig over the course of 5 months. This is not terrible, but not awesome either. So that's what I'm talking about. But that's one client. That's just one client. You know what I mean? So the point that I want to make is like people want to be led. So you got to step up and lead. And the way you do that is by asking bolder questions.
Correct. I want to add to that. So, I've actually told my team this, and I was on a strategy call with a client yesterday, and I recommended the same thing to them. And it's this same thing. People want to be led, but I spun it in a different manner because since, this applies to you because you're the brand doctor, right? So when people are paying that much, when clients are paying upwards of 5-figure, 6-figure value for whatever product or service we're providing, they are now we are now positioned as the experts. And what that enables us to do, what that positions us as, is that we are now the therapy providers and they are the patients.
Mm-hmm.
And so they are already relying, they're mentally in that state to rely on us to give them a peace of mind.
Yes.
To give them that certainty and reassurance.
Yes.
So we do have that. They've now assigned us that authority to be able to challenge their assumptions and lead them towards and direct them towards the right path.
Yes. That's beautifully put. It's beautifully put. And pricing says a lot about your confidence. I forget where the hell I was. Oh, I remember. This was years ago. I'm getting coached. Well, I'm seeking out a coach, and the guy comes across like he's this multi-million-dollar guy, I'm not going to mention his name, but I asked him, I said, all right, well, how do you price? How do you engage and what's the price? And he's like, well, 5 sessions are like $800. And I was just like, that's so cheap for 5 sessions.
Well,
I was like, am I really going to get value out of this? Like, you've heard me say that before. And then so then we get on our first call and you can tell he's winging this shit. Like, there's no formality. There's no real strong questions or direct. He's like, well, what do you need help with? Like, I would have had a whole course of action before that first call, so that when that person, because I know it's 5 sessions, right? I would have said to that person, okay, based on our initial conversation, let me just play back some of your big pain points here. And my promise to you at the end of these 5 calls is to overcome issue 1, issue 2, issue 3, issue 4, issue 5. Yes. Okay, great. All right. When do you want to book? My earliest availability. And I always like to do like 1 or 2 days out. I never like to do, well, I could go tomorrow. I could start tomorrow. What I want to do is I want a 2-day buffer to A, do more research on the client, and B, start focusing in on potential solutions for those 5 issues or 3 issues that client has. So now when I get on call number 1, I have a whole plan of attack ready to go. So that client feels confident in their decision.
Yeah.
So some people just want to throw out arbitrary numbers and wing this shit. And the client knows. They're not going to tell you. They're just going to say, thank you, and never call you again.
Yeah. Have a process in place.
Yeah. So it's so important.
Yeah.
And here's a question, here's a fun objection or a response to, I can't afford it right now. This one I've used over and over and over again, and it gets a chuckle. So I'll ask the client, like, let me just quick question. Are you a gambler? And they're like, no, I don't gamble. And I'm like, good, me either. Because that's why I pay a certain amount of assurance that we get this job done right. So let me ask you a question. Would you ever buy your kid a cheap stroller? Would you ever put your family on a cheap bus? Would you ever go and get discount LASIK surgery? I didn't think so. So if you want to get this done right, sometimes you have to pay the premium to get that insurance, get that assurance, not insurance, assurance, right? And bam, they start to giggle because they're like, oh yeah, no shit. I'm not going to put my kid on some half-ass thing where he falls out and breaks his face, right? So, and I'm sure as hell not going to go.
Moment.
Yeah, I'm sure as hell not going to go and find the cheapest LASIK surgeon and get my eyes done by them. You know, that's my freaking eyesight here. So, you know, these are some common objections. I mean, we could go. We're already at the 50-minute mark, so we're gonna start to wrap up here. But I appreciate everybody sticking in. Go ahead.
So I know, so we're limited on time, but the one that I always get, and I think you and I both get this. How can you guarantee this? Awesome. I need a guarantee, Henry.
Yeah.
So what's the response to that?
So this question, I mean, the answer to this, and some of you guys might have heard me say this already, but the answer, so I got that a couple years back. I don't get it as much anymore. I guess because I've laid down such a solid foundation of like credibility and authority, I don't get that much anymore. But when I did, I would just come straight back at them and say, what in life is guaranteed? And then I usually get a chuckle and they say nothing. And then I say, so let me ask you this. Why do you think this wouldn't work? That question alone closed a $50,000 project on the spot. And then when I asked the woman on our first call why she joined the program, she said, it was that question that put me over the top. And so I'll never forget that, because it was probably it was probably at the time like my second largest engagement in my career, right? So when somebody says that to me, I'm going to note that, and that's going to be in my memoir.
Yeah.
So that's the question that I ask back. And that seals the deal. There's a couple. How would you respond?
So on a guarantee, it's like, look, I can't guarantee anything based off of this. Mm-hmm. How do I know once everything, look, I know, and I have full confidence in my team and the results that we provide for our clients. However, how can you guarantee that once all of those great leads show up in your funnel, that your team is actually up to par with actually, getting these leads converted into paying customers?
Yeah, too much in the weeds.
Yeah,
it's you're going too much in the weeds, in my opinion.
Okay.
Put it back on them. Put it back on them right away, as fast as you possibly can. So I would say something along the lines of like, first guarantee is, and I would say this with a smile, you have to say this with a smile, especially when it gets to this conversation, because if you say this seriously, it could come across like we were talking about before, very interrogative and strong.
Remove the tension.
Yeah. So you got to remove the tension. You got a big smile on your face and say, it sounds like you're looking for a guarantee. So I'm going to give you two. And you know what? You're probably not going to like either of them. Right. But the first guarantee is, if we do nothing at all, you're going to be in the same boat tomorrow. But the second guarantee is, if you want me to guarantee you $1 million in revenue, then I would have to charge upwards of $1 million to make that guarantee. And that's not what we're in business for. We're not going to spend $1 million to make $1 million. That's shitty business, isn't it? So what I'm doing here is I am discounting for uncertainty. So there is a tremendous amount of uncertainty here. That's why the investment that you're going to pay me is considerably lower than what you're trying to make. But as we get closer to that guarantee, that price point that you want guaranteed, I'm going to have to charge accordingly for that.
It's a good response.
And then just let them talk. Let them talk. It usually, when you say discounting for uncertainty, that like rewires their mind right then and there. They're like, I've never heard that before in my life. And it makes sense then.
Yeah.
You completely rewired their logic.
Now they're anchored onto that higher price.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
for the guarantee. Yeah.
Exactly. So that's a little bit more of an advanced way of answering that objection. But if you're just starting out, or you feel more comfortable with responding with a question to get them to talk, then the first one's the best.
Go for that. Okay.
You know, what guarantees do we have in life? I get hit by a bus tomorrow.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. Why do you think this won't work?
Yeah.
Just shut up. Right. And then they may come back to you and say, well, this and that, and show me this and show me that. And now you have more conversation.
Correct.
To have. Right.
That's right. That's right.
So again, less talk, more listening, more note taking. So that was fun. I didn't think that was a train wreck. I thought that was actually done pretty well.
I came here sweating, man. I was like, oh shit, man.
Look at me patting myself.
I'm going to be live.
Right? Look at me patting myself on my own back once again.
Oh man. Yeah, this is a good run. Let's see what the audience, how the audience feels about this, and maybe we can do this again. I mean, I think it was a good exercise.
So let us know in the comments, like, what your biggest takeaway was. Any further questions that you have? I'm really responsive when it comes to seeing these comments come in. So, and if you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, we go live every Monday and Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, like religiously. So you can catch us live or watch the replays. Come check us out and make sure that you hit that subscribe button so you get notified when we're going live and when the next live stream is. So, Owais, you did a phenomenal job. I feel really confident that we helped some people today.
Me too. And big shout out to Robert too. I mean, Robert gave some good pointers in there.
He did. No, he did.
Yeah.
He did. So awesome stuff. So that's all, folks. So we will catch you next Monday at 2 p.m. Eastern. And I don't know if you're on my email list yet, but we send out a couple of emails as reminders before each live stream. And you could always catch me on Instagram as well at @thebrandDR. And I'm always putting reminders in the IG story as well. So make sure you follow me over there as well. So guys, have an amazing day, and we'll catch you on the next live stream.